So as the UN marks its 75th birthday this week, we too have cause to celebrate. Earlier this month, Wärtsilä was awarded the first prize in the United Nations AIS Big Data Hackathon. The event was jointly organized by the United Nations Statistics Division, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, and the UN Global Pulse. I'm here with the winning team members who are not just multicultural and multifunctional, but also from different areas of Wärtsilä. The winners are Thomas, Dennis, Tommy, Alexandra, Gennady, and Farid. Altogether, teams from about 17 organizations were selected to participate in the event. And Wärtsilä was the only multinational corporation to have its application for participation accepted. The remaining selected participants were from teams from all over the world, renowned research institutes and leading universities, which is usually typical of such hackathons. Therefore, congratulations. Let me start with you, Thomas. Could you tell us a bit more about the event?
Sure, thank you, Melvin. As you mentioned, it was the United Nations Office for Statistics together with the UNCTAD, the Conference for Trade and Development, and Global Pulse that jointly hosted this event, this hackathon. It was really a call out to researchers, predominantly research institutes and universities, to come together and use this AIS data and try to address either the COVID-19 challenge or a very important sustainable development goal, climate change. And so this was really a call for action to try and find more use cases, more opportunities to use this wealth of data.
Thomas, if we take this back a notch, AIS is the operative word here. Why has the UN chosen to zone in on AIS in particular?
Well, as you know, AIS stands for Automatic Identification System, a tracking system used by shipping for many decades now. And it covers, about 100,000 vessels worldwide. And it's a very high quantity, and some would say quality, data source. There are some issues with the data, but everyone agrees it's such a wealth of data that it is untapped at the moment. It's underutilized. There are more use cases. There are more things that you can do with this data. And it doesn't surprise me that the UN has identified it as one of the key things to use to create more visibility, more transparency of what's going on in our oceans.
So Thomas, your team is named Blue Carbon, which is immediately indicating that you made the decision to tackle climate change right from the outset. Why is that?
That's right, Melvin. Well, tackling climate action or climate change is really an easy one for us. At Wärtsilä, our purpose is to enable sustainable societies with smart technologies. That's our long-standing commitment. It's ingrained in everything we do. We want to reduce shipping carbon's footprint. And to be able to tackle that in a hackathon such as this, it was just a match made in heaven. It perfectly aligned. And then in terms of the name Blue Carbon, well, that's actually quite an interesting one because it's a notion, it's a definition that you can look up that pertains to CO2 sequestration. It pertains to the ocean playing a role in holding on to greenhouse gases, but actually also playing a role in emissions, because meadows of seagrass and mangroves play a very important role in both those areas. And so our platform is blue carbon because of that reason, but also because the ocean is blue, and it seemed like a very good fit. And then last but not least, our platform also allows for local measurements made at those sites, at those mangroves or meadows of seagrass, to be able to subtract the shipping emissions. And so to really focus on only the emissions caused by those meadows, and that should further local research. So really, it all came together for us with that name.
Excellent. Dennis, if I were to come to you next, tell us a bit more about the solution that you have developed.
Yeah, maybe we could start from what goes in. So we had this AIS data, and I think it's fair to say that we as Wärtsilä have huge experience with that data in Voyage. We have many products using AIS data in real time, so it's nothing new for us. And especially Alexandra and Farid and Gennady, they've worked with AIS for a long time. Same for myself and Tommy. So with slightly different angles, but it's really something that we know like the back of our pocket. But then to innovate, you need to join it with something else, and due to the topic of addressing climate change, we use this emissions data set from the European Union. It's a very, very good initiative. European Union is mandating that since 2018 that all ships report their emissions in Europe. So it only covers Europe, but it's possible to extrapolate that. And so we had these two ingredients, AIS, where the ships are, and emissions over the course of a year. And then it was the challenge how to distribute that geographically. And I have to say, I'm not so, for me, it's also a black box what the data scientists did there. I just see that it works. But these were our two main input sources. And then on the output side, well, we produced the data and we put it on a map.
Dennis, could you use this model to support work of research institutions too?
Yes, and I think that's actually one of our common targets. I see it a bit twofold. We have, on the one hand, we have the map, and I was specifically pushing for that because for me, I open the map and I find something interesting. My mother looked at the map, saw that there are surprisingly a lot of emissions on rivers inland. So, and I think everyone discovers something on their own. And so for the vast majority, for 99.9% of the people, they look at the map and they feel something. They look into their neighborhood or their home region and realize what's the situation there. However, then for this 0.1% of capable researchers and data scientists, they don't care about the map, about the visualization. They want to have the data, and we have the data in our pocket, and we have analyzed it to a certain degree ourselves, but our interest is to share this data with the scientific community so that they can use it, that they can run simulations, and that they can do innovation on it.
Sure. I think it's interesting because if anybody has access to such data, the first thing they would do is check what their surroundings look like. Thomas, let me come to you here. Are we seeing an accelerating movement towards emission tracking then? For example, it was recently announced that Climate Trace, an initiative led by Gore, plans to track and publish every ship's carbon footprint. And there has been much speculation recently suggesting that the EU policymakers are considering introducing a maritime cap and trace market. How does your solution play into these narratives?
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you mentioned Climate Trace, Al Gore's initiative, because one of the problems it's trying to solve is that locally recorded emissions differ wildly from country to country due to different methodologies. And there again, our solution is also trying to help, as I mentioned earlier, by allowing those local measurements to subtract the emissions caused by shipping and only focus on land-based or biogenic sources. So both Al Gore's initiative and the recent decision by European lawmakers to include shipping emissions in the EU carbon market show really that this increase of transparency in the shipping industry is inescapable. And the key really here is to be proactive, is to be ahead of the curve, and together with solution providers like Wärtsilä, embrace this commitment to addressing climate change. And if you were to ask me in terms of what the impact would be on shipping, it wouldn't surprise me if you would see a change in the markets, whether it's increased consolidation between operators or indeed alliances that change, and perhaps even operators or owners that decide that it's become too difficult for them and they decide to no longer operate, which in a way, it would be a good thing if their choice is to not go green and to just stop with less efficient shipping.